CEIArtE Leigh Landy. I am a composer and a music scholar, and I'm a research professor at the De Montfort University in Leicester in the United Kingdom, where I am the director of the Music, Technology and Innovation Research Center. There are many different definitions of electroacoustic music, none of which do I like, but I made one myself, which I tend to use, and that's music in which the involvement of technology is highly significant and goes beyond the recording or amplification of sound. So we're using technology to maybe make sounds, to manipulate sounds, to send sounds into space, etc., etc. Oh, this is a very, very difficult question. I will explain why. I think we live in a period where we should stop thinking about Bach and Beethoven from living composers and just think about good and bad music. So we do have people who are very, very famous, like Karlheinz Stockhausen, who died recently. But I'm not interested in the masterwork or the great artist. I'm interested in a lot of good music. So obviously there are some composers who I like more than others, but I don't think that's very important. What I like is to be communicated to by the music. Okay, those who have been trained in an instrument or the voice in classical music and who in their childhood and in their studies have been kept away from music made by people who are still alive are living in a culture that I call the culture of the museum, which is a culture that is in great danger. These same people like pop music that has just been recorded last year, but they're not interested in the classical music of recent times. And some of these students who are singers or flute players or violinists are told by their teachers not to play the contemporary music because it's bad for their voice, for their health, and for their technique. So they don't even get asked to meet the composers and try the new music. This is, number one, completely ridiculous, and number two, not healthy, because the best thing to do is to collaborate with musicians and make things together. So I think that people with a classical training should spend a lot of time with the contemporary musicians, and in particular time with people using new technology, which is the majority of music today uses technology, and if they ignore this, they will be isolated one day. Well, I'm somebody who maybe more than most has written about this question. And my point of view is that for many, many years, many dozens of years, the society has done its very best to ignore the music. It's not on the radio very much. It's almost never on the television. In the newspapers, very little written about it. I assume in Argentina, Buenos Aires, is the same thing. And of course, in the schools for the young people, they're not introduced to this music, so they don't know how to discover it. And therefore, it's completely on the margin of the music. But we have done research which proves to us that people of all ages could be interested in this. So I'm very upset about the situation now, but I'm very hopeful that things will develop so there's more understanding, more appreciation, and more participation in the future. Well, I would say this. The United Kingdom was not one of the very early countries, and it's also not my country. I'm not from the United Kingdom, but it's not one of the first countries to start in the electroacoustic music. But certainly for 20 or 25 years, it has been one of the great centers of this. People from around the world come to the UK to study the music, to become composers, or maybe musicologists, to understand this music better. So we have a very lively situation for this. But still, if I go onto the street and I ask anybody at random, what can you tell me about electroacoustic music, they will know as little as somebody on Buenos Aires in the streets. So we still have the problem, but I think in the United Kingdom, the lower, which we call colleges, and the universities, that there are more than 60 where you can study electroacoustic music, and that's quite a lot. I don't think one should ever have expectations, so I'm not going to answer that. But I will tell you what my hope is. And my hope is two things. Number one, the people who came from outside Latin America learn how rich the developments are in electroacoustic music, both in Argentina and throughout the Latin American countries. I personally have been often in Brazil, so I actually know already. But for others, they have no idea. And to see so many people making good music and also making good research and also teaching the following generation is very exciting. So that's one hope. The other hope is to establish a greater communication, because many people I know, not all, who are in Latin America often feel isolated. And to have more communication amongst institutions, amongst musicians, amongst countries, amongst continents is very important. And one of the goals of the Electroacoustic Music Studies Network is to establish these bridges. So my hope is that many are established in these days. I think in general that the work has been very stimulating and of a high quality. Unfortunately, we've had a very bad economy internationally this year, and so we have fewer people than we've had in the past, partially due to the distance to come here, but more importantly due to economic circumstances. I suppose the one thing I miss is having more students involved in interaction with the more advanced researchers. I know that that's difficult, but that's one aspect I think is very good when students can meet each other, they can meet professionals in their own country and professionals from around the world. But that's the only small criticism I have. I think the paper so far, we have another day to go, plus the discussions outside. And for example, last night I had a meal in the Centro of Buenos Aires, and on the table were people from 9 countries having a good time and talking about electroacoustic music. This does not happen every day. No. Well, a wish for the future from this conference is that many friendships evolve. And the wish for the future for electroacoustic music is that it continues to develop as it is. It's broadening very much in its horizon at the moment. Certainly the young generation with noise music, laptop music, electronica, etc., etc. There's many new things happening. And my hope is that it gets the recognition and the interest and the participation that it deserves in the future. And I hope that we, through these conferences, offer a means to help this out.